just thought you guys might find this kind of interesting that the Chapman University did a survey of American fears where they took a random sample of 1,541 adults from across the country, and they were asked about their level of fear over 88 different fears ranging the gamut. So if you go to the bottom here, the very bottom, you had judgment of others based on what you're wearing or your gender or your race. Then you had clowns. Then you had vaccines, which was only slightly less scary than zombies. So that should tell you something. People are pretty much equally afraid of vaccines as they are of zombies. But here's where it gets really interesting, in my opinion. So you have all these things. You have needles, volcanoes, claustrophobia, water, dying. Those are all underneath gun control and Obamacare. People are more afraid of Obamacare and gun control than they are of pandemics or nuclear attacks. That's right. That is the era that we live in America, where people are more afraid of what the government is doing than they are of being blown up by a nuke. And here's where it gets very interesting. The top 10 fears of 2015. Look what the number one fear of all fears is. Of all 88 fears. Corruption of government officials. That is what people are most afraid of right now. So it's not all the stuff they try to scare us with. The system knows what people actually are worried about. And they know that it's the system itself. Not all this stuff they try and scare you with every day. I mean, I still think terrorist attacks is pretty high on here, and I think they've socially engineered everyone to be afraid of terrorist attacks, and they bring it up all the time and stick it in your face. But it's interesting that it's still slightly less scary to people than corporate tracking of their personal information and cyber terrorism. And then you have government tracking of personal information, which is almost as scary as terrorist attacks. Then you have biowarfare. People are less afraid of biowarfare than they are of the government tracking their personal information and being corrupt. In fact, economic collapse is even below that. Anyway, the number one fear of all Americans is how corrupt our government is. Getting raped, getting murdered, blown up by nuclear weapons, pandemics, whatever. Anything you can think of, zombies, clowns, everything. And the number one fear, government corruption.